As one of the longest-running sitcoms in US TV, Married with Children has built a solid fandom, given the high ratings and demand for the show. Pretty surprising, considering the show received mixed reviews when it first aired with its crude and outrageous theme. But that became the very reason why fans and viewers tune in to see what kind of adventures the Bundys will take on. But if you think you've seen the most tasteless and crude episode of the series, think again. This one particular episode was so controversial at the time that executives decided to shelve it for good, until today. Now, this banned Married with Children episode can finally be shown. But is it really that controversial? Or did the executives just cave under pressure? You be the judge for that. Created by Michael G. Moy and Ron Levitt for Fox Broadcasting Company, Married with Children is an American TV series that premiered on April 5, 1987, and ran until June 9, 1997. It boasts of 11 seasons and 259 episodes. The series originally wrapped up in May of 1997, but the following month, they broadcast 2 more episodes that have yet to be seen on TV. The series follows the lives of the dysfunctional Bundy family, with patriarch Al Bundy working as a hard-luck women's shoe salesman who worked as a high school football player before. His wife Peggy is known for being lazy, and they have 2 children, Kelly and Bud. While Kelly was not the sharpest tool in the shed, her brother is the exact opposite for being smart. They are joined by their neighbors, Steve and Marcy Rhodes. Al finds the couple annoying, a sentiment the latter also shares toward him. Given how the characters of the show are not your typical feel-good family, they also deal with a lot of satire, as well as raunchy and politically incorrect viewpoints, which explains why they garnered mixed reviews. Sure, the satire is heavy, and they do tackle a lot of delicate topics in the guise of a good laugh. But there's this one episode that is just the cherry on top. For non-viewers, they may think the whole series is pretty controversial, but there is one that stood out the most among the rest, and Fox actually had it pulled from being aired in the US. We're talking about the lost or banned episode titled I'll See You in Court, the 10th episode of Season 3. The plot follows the Bundy couple visiting a certain Hop-On Inn, which would have been nothing out of the ordinary, but to their shock, Al and Peggy discovered that they were secretly filmed while having intercourse. What's more, this raunchy video of theirs is even sold as porn. And that's not all. Even their neighbors, Steve and Marcy, fell victim to the inn. As a result, both couples intend to sue Hop-On Inn. Having innuendos and perverted jokes is pretty common in any Married with Children episode, but this one has more overtly jokes than usual. There were a couple of problematic scenarios here that, if wrapped up all together, contribute to its controversy. For one, during this episode, viewers can see how Marcy and Al are pretty much the same person. There was that one moment during the episode where Al was ready to deck the staff at the motel for filming them without consent, and Marcy was on board with his violent reaction. In fact, she even threatened to use a can opener on the staff. Unlike them, their better halves, Steve and Peggy, prefer to do this the right way, by pressing charges instead of exercising violence. But Peggy and Steve are not any better than their spouses. As we all know, Peg is a lazy wife. But in this episode, we can also see how entitled she is in the way that she told her husband that he deserves to be locked up if he dares to use his money on himself. On top of that, she even threatened to knock her husband out if he refused to have intercourse with her. Doesn't that fall under marital coercion? Then we have Steve. Steve brags about how he's got it all covered and presentable at court, but are we even surprised that he neglects to rise for the judge? At least Al and Peggy knew that. But most of all, the main concerning theme in this episode is non-consensual which is the reason why both couples decided to sue the motel and take the matter to court. The producers really thought they could get away with this episode, but unfortunately, they had to pull the plug, especially since there was a highly publicized sponsor boycott campaign against the series. The one spearheading the movement back then was Terry Rakolta, an American former anti-obscenity activist. Rakolta openly expressed how displeased she was with the show, especially with one of their earlier episodes titled Her Cups Runneth Over. Fearing that more advertisers, fans, and viewers would drop the series, the executives decided to shelve I'll See You in Court in 1989. It wasn't until the cable channel FX acquired the rerun rights of the series so only then they were able to air it and file it as a lost episode. Since we're talking about controversial episodes, there is actually one more episode which many deemed scandalous at the time. And yes, we're talking about the aforementioned Her Cups Runneth Over. This is the 6th episode of The Third Reason, and the very reason for Terry Rakolta's public outcry. The plot of this episode revolves around Al and Steve, who are hell-bent on finding Peggy's discontinued favorite bra at a lingerie shop called Francine's of Wisconsin. Like many other Married with Children episodes, this one is no different with its raunchy jokes, but this one in particular may have gone overboard compared to the rest. Plus, there's also implied nudity, with one scene depicting Steve ogling a mannequin dressed in a leather miniskirt and starting to poke it. Al wanders over and asks his friend if he wasn't ashamed of doing it. Steve had a pretty controversial answer, which would have immediately canceled the show if it were aired today. Steve replied with, "Oh, come on, Al. She was asking for it. You can see the way she's dressed." Let's not forget that references to boys and deviant behavior also came up in this episode, which were considered too explicit to air at the time. Ultimately, Terry Rakolta led the revolt against the show and led a letter-writing campaign to advertisers, urging them to boycott the show. A few advertisers were persuaded and pulled their support. Of course, the executives didn't expect things to escalate to this, which is why in future episodes they became much more mindful about the show's content. Later on, Peggy's actress, Katie Sagal, revealed in a 2021 interview on the WTF with Marc Maron podcast how they tried to make peace with Rakolta. "We sent her flowers every year," the actress said. "She tried to get us off air, and all it did was get us on the front of the New York Times, and it doubled our audience." Controversial as it was, Married with Children still garnered a lot of fans. Even though they never made it big in ratings, it was still a well-received show under Fox. If anything, Rakolta's rallying against the show even helped make the show even more popular. Which brings us to the big question. There's been a resurgence of Married with Children's popularity, and even more so when it was announced 2 years ago that the series was about to get an animated revival. Reports even poured in stating that the original cast is set to return, such as Ed O'Neill, Katie Sagal, Christina Applegate, and David Faustino. Only this time they won't be acting on camera but lending their voices to give life to their characters. Back in 2023, Applegate even confirmed that the main cast members are still linked to the project, but as time went on, no updates or plans were solidified, leaving not only the cast but also the fans and viewers hanging. Then, just a few months ago, Matt Mitovich of TV Line reported that the plans for the animated Married with Children were no longer in development. Be that as it may, he also adds that the IP remains very important to Sony Pictures Television. It's too bad since the reboot was written by Alex Carter, the executive producer of Family Guy. Carter was also set to serve as the animated series' showrunner. According to the synopsis, the Bundys this time relocate to Florida, where they are followed by a string of misfortunes. Although the animated reboot may be shelved, who knows? There's still a chance that some executive may pick it up sometime in the future. Good thing the cast have their own lives going on for them while waiting for a reboot or not, which brings us to ask. Some of the cast members found more success than the others, while there are those who opted to explore other ventures as well. The Bundy patriarch, played by Ed O'Neill, was nominated twice for a Golden Globe Award for his portrayal of the character. But did you know? We almost had a different Al Bundy. Writer-producer Richard Gurman revealed in his book, Married with Children vs. the World, that he and Barry Diller, a network executive, almost replaced O'Neill before the shooting of the pilot episode started. According to Diller, he had never heard of O'Neill before, and of course, as a network executive, he had to look out for the show. For one, he thought they could do better than O'Neill, whom they labeled as a dramatic actor from New York as far as they were concerned. Well, O'Neill only knew about it much later, and they proceeded to shoot the pilot with those pressures for everybody else. In the end, it turned out for the better, and they had one of the longest-running sitcoms on Fox. Ever since the series wrapped up, Ed O'Neill has found himself working on both the big and the small screen. He was cast in the 1999 crime thriller film The Bone Collector, acting opposite Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie. He was also in the 2000 adventure series The 10th Kingdom, as well as the 2000s reboot of the series Dragnet. He has a long list of impressive works under his belt, but the most famous of all of these is his role as Jay Pritchett on Modern Family. He embodied the character from 2009 to 2020 and even won 4 Screen Actors Guild Awards as part of the ensemble and was nominated for 3 Emmys. After his comedy stint in Modern Family, O'Neill shed the comedy and embraced a more serious and dramatic role in FX's miniseries, Clipped, where he portrayed disgraced LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling. Compared to her on-screen husband, Katey Sagal was more focused on music before she landed the role of Peggy Bundy. She served as backing vocals for numerous artists, the most notable of them being one of Bette Midler's Harlots, before going solo. She released her debut album titled Well in 1994 before focusing on acting. Her role as Peggy earned her 4 Golden Globe nominations, which opened the door to many opportunities after the show ended. When she first read the script, she found it funny, but at the same time, she also had her doubts about whether anyone would watch it, given how it's not your ordinary family sitcom. I remember reading the script thinking, this is hysterically funny, but no one will watch it because it's just too outside the box, the actress told ABC News in a 2017 interview. She also believed that they would get canceled earlier on, especially since it was under a network nobody had heard of. Still, she had her fun on set, describing the cast as having great chemistry. After Married with Children, Sagal landed several small roles in TV series, which include Tucker, That 70s Show, 8 Simple Rules, and even Futurama, where she lent her voice to the character Leela. Katey Sagal rose to prominence for her role as Gemma Teller-Morrow on Sons of Anarchy, for which she won a Golden Globe. Some of her film credits include Pitch Perfect, Bleed for This, and the most recent being in the American thriller Trust. Then we also have one of the most successful cast members in the show, Christina Applegate, who portrayed Kelly Bundy, Al and Peggy's raunchy daughter. The actress has appeared in a multitude of projects, both in film and series, and since she practically grew up and Married with Children, she formed lasting relationships with her co-stars that endured even post-filming. Just last year, during one of the episodes of her podcast, Messy, she revealed how not a lot of time goes by without someone checking in with someone. She shared how she often talked on the phone with Ed O'Neill, and Katey Sagal frequently came over. As for her on-screen brother, Dave Faustino, she details how she often sees him since their children attended the same school at one point. Some of her notable film credits include Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, The Sweetest Thing, Bad Moms, and her most defining role out of all is in the comedy drama Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. On top of being involved in both TV series and films, Christina Applegate also conquered the stage and even earned a Tony nomination for the 2005 reboot of Sweet Charity on Broadway. Given her extensive acting credits, Christina Applegate received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2021. She also wrote a book which is set to be released in March 2026 titled You with the Sad Eyes. Of course, we also have David Faustino, who played the youngest Bundy, Bud. Long after the show finished, Faustino revealed that he had people coming over to his house every summer to blast the show's theme song, Love and Marriage. He feels a little incredulous about this, citing how people come over at least 10 or 20 times. He's not too bothered about it either, telling EW in an October 2010 interview how he's glad about it. I still get all the benefits, the actor said. It's been a good life for me. Like the rest of his co-stars, he's been busy with other projects after the show. He even starred in a couple of Modern Family episodes, reuniting with his on-screen father, Ed O'Neill. His more notable TV series include HBO's Entourage and the American drama Bones. Had they continued with the animated series of Married with Kids, it would have been right up Faustino's alley, since the actor did a lot of extensive voice work, the most prominent of which is Mako in the animated series and video game of The Legend of Korra. It's nice to see the cast doing their own things now, but if a reboot really came through, would the show really do well today, considering the original show has more than a couple of questionable takes? It's already been established from the start that the Bundys are a dysfunctional family, but will their crude and raunchy humor fly by with today's viewers? Especially how wokeness has made people become more cautious of everything they put out? One of the things that won't relate to many is how married people should stay together. despite the odds. For one, we know Al Bundy complains about anything and everything about his wife and family. But if he were so miserable, why not consider divorce? The man is set on delivering "till death do us part." He would rather stay in an unloving relationship than consider divorce. In today's society, many people are more open about the idea of divorce, considering that there are other factors that could not only be detrimental to the couple, but also to their children. Besides divorce, there's also the blatant fat-shaming depicted in the show. When fat-shaming is the topic, you can bet Al Bundy already has a joke or two ready to fire. But this is exactly for this reason why his character has become the poster boy not to idolize. Through him, people could learn how to act better, though many of his jokes probably won't sell. Then there's also the show's brand of feminism, which hinges on borderline misandry. In the show, Marcy is the series' very own feminist, but it doesn't really sit well with the very idea, since hers is akin to misandry. Remember when she created WOMB, which stands for Women Over Men Bupkis. On top of that, she's also reproachful of Al and the majority of the male characters. Let's not forget about the sexual double standard of the kids in the series. While Kelly is viewed as the typical dumb blonde, her brother is seen as the smart one. On the upside, at least Kelly openly embraced her sexuality, which is better received today. What won't fly with the audiences today, however, is Bud's blatant shaming of her sister. Last but not least, the one thing viewers will never tolerate if Married with Kids aired today is Al Bundy's random violence. Time and again we've seen in the series how he was quick to throw hands, and that was acceptable for the audiences back then, since his character came from a generation that praised brute strength and male violence. For the viewers of today, Al's use of excessive violence is a better fit for an antagonist rather than the protagonist.